Thank you very much. Hopefully you can see the slides now. So I'm just going to present to you one of the analyses from the LEGEND Type 2 Diabetes study. And this one focuses on the association between GLP-1 receptor antagonists and thyroid cancer. So what are glucagon-like peptide 1 receptor antagonists? Well, these are incretin hormone mimetics, and they work in diabetes for stimulating insulin secretion, but also suppress glucagon secretion, and they work at the GLP-1 receptor. And they have a licensed indication for the treatment of type 2 diabetes, typically as second-line agents. But two of the agents currently have a license for the treatment of obesity. They also have an impact on weight loss. And there's also evidence increasing that shows that GLP-1 receptor antagonists have other potential beneficial effects on cardiovascular disease and also preventing renal disease. And in the bottom right-hand side of this slide, you see a drug utilization study performed as part of the LEGEND Type 2 Diabetes Initiative, showing actually an increasing uptake in GLP-1s. This is from the US in people with cardiovascular disease, but it's very striking as well in even those without cardiovascular disease. And so they're very popular at the moment and also have been a topic for potential shortages because of their popularity. So where does this history of thyroid cancer or the concern come from? Well, preclinical studies and animal models reported that exposure to GLP receptor antagonists seemed to cause thyroid C-cell hyperplasia, adenomas, and also carcinomas that appear to be in a dose-dependent and time-dependent manner. But as we all know, animal models are not necessarily the same as human models, and it's uncertain whether those findings are relevant to humans. However, when these drugs are licensed in the US, the FDA added warnings that they should be contraindicated in people with a personal or a family history of thyroid cancer and also multiple endocrine neoplasia. But there's no such warnings in Europe. And a recent study from the European side raised a few eyebrows. This was a nested case control study using national data from France, examining the association between GLP-1 receptor antagonists and incident thyroid cancer in people with type 2 diabetes, and also a comparison with another diabetic treatment, DPP-4 inhibitors. And this study did report an increased association with 1 to 3 years of GLP-1 receptor use in both thyroid cancer and specifically medullary thyroid cancer. But there were some limitations in this study. However, it led to a safety review over in Europe. Now, for those of you, I'm sure many of you are aware of the LEGEND Type 2 Diabetes project. This basically just summarizes it, but not focused too much on it. So this is a new user cohort design examining the effects of different second-line agents and people with type 2 diabetes. And the focus here with GLP-1 receptor antagonists compared to the other agents, which are DPP-4 inhibitors, SGLT2 inhibitors, and sulfonylureas. And the study was executed across 10 data sources from the US, Germany, Spain, and the United Kingdom. This just gives you a little schematic of what the new user cohort looks like. And if you're interested, obviously you can go to the protocol and the GitHub to look at this in more detail. But a new user cohort with several different eligibility criteria in terms of observation, having to have a code for type 2 diabetes, but no type 1, having to be on metformin prior to drug initiation because it's second line, along with a number of criteria. And the outcomes for that LEGEND Type 2 Diabetes study also looks at effectiveness and safety, but this one is predominantly focusing on the thyroid cancer concern. So in terms of the method of analysis, it's used large-scale propensity score matching and stratification with two different treatment strategies, that of intention to treat and a non-treatment analysis, with the effect estimates summed through meta-analysis, a random effects meta-analysis. The use of negative control distribution to assess for unmeasured confounding and also for calibration of the effect estimates. Now, one thing when you're conducting such a study is that even though you may have 10 data sources, not all of them may be used depending on certain criteria. So here, data sources and effect estimates were included in the meta-analysis. If the cohort arms had more than 1,000 patients, but even if that's the case, and you'll see some of the data sources here have more than 1,000 patients in each cohort arm, but there were very few or no events, or they failed propensity score diagnostics. So what we actually see here is those that are grayed out were not included in the meta-analysis, and the ones that remained were actually all US data sources. So despite having a very wide variety of data sources, it was predominantly the US data sources that were included in the final meta-analysis here. And this just summarizes the calibrated and uncalibrated hazard ratios for the association of incident thyroid tumor. So this is an outcome that is both carcinoma and adenomas, which is still relevant in terms of the preclinical mouse rodent models that demonstrated increased in both. But there was no evidence of a significant increase in people using GLP-1 receptor agonist versus the other second-line agents. So this helped to provide a bit more reassuring information.